Hi, and welcome to another Average Joe Hockey Report. In today's video, we're going to look at every NHL team's goalie situation and if I like what they are doing in the short term and the long term and whatnot. First, starting with the Anaheim Ducks, and we'll just sum it up by saying that John Gibson is 27 and should have a lot of good years left in him. So, yes, I think their goaltending situation looks good going forward. Next is the Arizona Coyotes. I'd say their goaltending situation isn't ideal, but probably important to note that both Antti Ranta and Darcy Kemper are both on injury reserve. Arizona is going to have quite a few UFAs, including Ranta, at the end of the season, so they could make a big splash for a goalie should they choose not to resign some of these UFAs. So while I'm not a current fan of their situation, Kemper could still maybe have the season he did last season, or they could maybe try to make a move for a goaltender. I'd say I'm intrigued about their goaltending situation. Okay, first of all, um, uh, because I did every team, I might have to stop at a certain amount of minutes, and then this will be like part one of the video, okay? Alright, back on topic. Next is the Boston Bruins. Both Tuukka Rask and Yaroslav Halak are UFAs at the end of the season. Should be important to note that David Krejci is also a UFA, so that's a lot of cap space being freed. Boston has some interesting choices for what route they want to go for goaltending. Do you re-sign the 34-year-old Rask and have Dan Vladar make the jump? Does Vladar fully make the jump, take the reins, and do you sign a veteran backup to maybe resign Halak, or do you make a big splash into free agency? Boston certainly has options for next season that they can explore. I think their situation looks good regardless for the long run. Next is the Buffalo Sabres, and you'll be surprised what I think of their goaltending situation. Both Carter Hutton and Linus Ullmark are going to be UFAs. Ullmark has been a decent option. Ullmark would be a decent option if the Sabres decide to bring him back, or if the Sabres decide to let Taylor Hall and Brendan Montour go, or if the Sabres decide to let Taylor Hall and Brendan Montour go, they could maybe make a signing in free agency. They also have prospect Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. Yeah, I know, what a name, eh? For their future. So while I'm not the biggest fan of their goaltending situation or just the entire situation right now, I'd like to think that it will improve, and I'm actually optimistic about them. Next is the Calgary Flames. While it hasn't necessarily been a great this season, I think Jacob Markstrom still has a chance to have better seasons, and Dustin Wolf is a promising prospect that could eventually take over the reins in Calgary. With David Riddick's contract up at the end of the season, Calgary could bring in a backup should they part ways with Riddick and go with Markstrom in the backup until Wolf is ready. So going forward, yeah, I think I do like Calgary's goaltending. Next is the Carolina Hurricanes. Peter Mrazek, Alex Nedeljkovic, and James Reimer will all have their contracts up at the end of this season, but it's important to note that Nedeljkovic is an RFA, and considering he's put in some solid work this season for the Hurricanes, he should get re-signed and may even become the starter. Having a Nedeljkovic-Mrazek duo wouldn't be a bad thing at all for the team, so I think I like their situation going forward. Next is the Chicago Blackhawks. Their goaltending situation was solved a lot sooner than I thought it would be with Kevin Lankinen. Lankinen has given the team solid goaltending for the present and should for the future. So yes, I do like their situation going forward. Next is the Colorado Avalanche. Philip Grubauer is most certainly the go-to guy in goal for the Avs, and once Pavel Francouz can be off long-term injury reserve, they should have stable goaltending for the time being. They have a bunch of young prospects at goaltending that they can experiment with, and if none of them work out, Joe Sakic can always be counted on to work his magic. So yeah, I do like Colorado's goaltending situation going forward. Next is the Columbus Blue Jackets. The stats may not show how well they are performing, but for Elvis Merzlikins and Jonas Korpisalo, I think it's the team in front of them that's hindering them a bit, and they are doing what they can now. A stronger team in front of them and possibly a new coach should make for better stats between the two, so I'd say that the problem with the Columbus Blue Jackets is not goaltending, especially since even Merzlikins, regardless of the team in front of him, still put up pretty good stats. Next is the Dallas Stars. While his stats have dropped a bit, do keep in mind that Jake Ottinger is 22 years old. He's still pretty good this season and will only get better. Ottinger, I think, is their future, and Anton Hudobin is a good present goalie. And if Ben Bishop can ever be healthy again, the Stars shouldn't have any problems with goaltending, so I must say I like their situation going forward. Next is the Detroit Red Wings, and I can't say I'm a fan of the Wings' goalie situation. They do, however, have cap space, and will have even more cap space since both Darren Helm, Mark Stahl, Val Filppula, and Jonathan Bernier are all UFAs at the end of this season. So I'm gonna say I don't like their goaltending situation at the moment, and I don't think they have an up and coming goaltender, but they could acquire one via free agency. Only one problem is that acquiring Thomas Greisch hasn't worked out, but at the same time he's on a rebuilding team. So while I don't like the situation, they could easily make a move to improve that. Next is the Edmonton Oilers. Edmonton is another team that I'm not a fan of regarding their goaltending. I've already talked about how I find Mike Smith cringy. Mikko Koskinen has major rebound control and puck tracking issues. Alex Stalock could be a decent short-term option, but he's only that, and I don't know if they have an up-and-coming goalie. To say that I don't like their goaltending anytime soon is an understatement. Next is the Florida Panthers. Now, I like Florida in regards to goaltending. Bobrovsky, I feel, has been playing better, and Chris Driedger I've done a segment on before, and nothing has changed in his place since. The team might take a bit of a hit should Driedger get selected by the Seattle Kraken. But should they have a decent short-term goalie until Spencer Knight is ready, and should Bobrovsky provide good enough goaltending, Florida gets a thumbs up in regards to regarding goaltending. Oh, I'd like to add this as well. Florida also has Devin Levi in their system too. And Devin Levi was great for Team Canada in this past World Junior Hockey Championship. So, yeah, Florida's definitely doesn't have goaltending problems. Next is the Los Angeles Kings. Even in their rebuilding stage, Cal Peterson is putting up pretty good numbers. Los Angeles boasts one of the best prospect pools in the NHL, so once they are ready to make the jump, life should only get better for Peterson. So yeah, the Kings should be okay in goal for a long time. Next is the Minnesota Wild. One of the reasons why the Wild have been one of the most surprising teams in the NHL is goaltending. A rejuvenated Cam Talbot and a promising future goalie in Kaapo Kakkonen has me believing in the Wild's goaltending situation. So yes, the Wild get 2 thumbs up regarding goaltending. Next is the Montreal Canadiens. Sorry, I had a bit of an itch. And while Carey Price has had his stats go downwards since the 2013-2014 season, he's had some bounce back moments and is starting to play better, although, except for that, you can make the debate about the 5-3 loss to Ottawa. As we all know, he'll be there for a long time and will eventually mentor up-and-coming goalie Caden Primo, the son of Keith Primo. Jake Allen has once again had a solid season, although his stats have dropped a bit. This may not scare away the Seattle Kraken, as they could put a damper on the Habs goalie situation, forcing the Habs to go with a temporary solution until Primo is ready. In the meantime, the Habs should be in decent hands with Price, and will be in good hands once Primo is ready. Next is the Nashville Predators. Well, don't look now, but it looks like UC Saros has finally taken over the reins and has brought Nashville from second last to tied for 4th place. At least the last time I checked it. Hold on, let's just make that correction right now. Yeah, they're still... Hold on, let's refresh this. Okay, now they're fully in 4th place. Alrighty. Where was I? Yeah. Pekka Rinne's contract expires at the end of this season, so the team has some options for short-term goalies, and also has Yaroslav Askarov as their up-and-coming goalie. Having Casimir Kaskasuo or Connor Ingram, who's already in the system, wouldn't be bad options until Askarov is ready. Needless to say, Nashville looks very strong between the pipes in their future. I'm going to end part 1 right here. So stay tuned for part 2, and there might even be a part 3 depending on how many teams I could get through. So yeah.